Creo que según yo moviendo el teléfono ya no se iba a cortar tanto. Pero no sé. Soy Acuario. Acuario. Vean mi tape. No juzgamos las greñas porque no me he cepillado el cabello. Venir a California aquí es mucho más seguro. ¿Sí? ¿Te haces algo en la ceja para laminarla? Pues ahorita no la tengo laminada. Más bien tengo el gel de cejas de Pink Up.
It was supposed to be another ordinary live stream. 23-year-old beauty influencer Valeria Marquez was inside her salon in Zapopan, Jalisco, talking to her followers and sharing a moment of her life with thousands of people watching. But somewhere outside that salon, someone was already moving toward her, and what happened next would turn an ordinary TikTok live stream into one of the most disturbing murders ever captured on social media. At first, investigators would uncover something that made the killing seem deeply personal: a relationship, threats, and a man who allegedly refused to let Valeria walk away. But more than a year later, the investigation would lead somewhere much darker, because the man authorities eventually arrested wasn't just connected to Valeria's past. He was allegedly a powerful cartel figure, and according to Mexican authorities, the order to kill her may have come from inside one of the country's most violent criminal organizations. Before the gunfire, Valeria Marquez was known for beauty, fashion, and her growing presence online. Her salon, Blossom the Beauty Lounge, had become part of her world, and on that day in May 2025, she was doing something millions of influencers do every day. She was live streaming. Her followers could watch her in real time. They could hear her voice. They could see what was happening around her. And then, according to investigators, someone arrived at the business. A masked man reportedly appeared on a motorcycle, but he wasn't immediately treated like a threat. He allegedly presented himself, and then came a seemingly simple question: "Are you Valeria?" That question would become the final warning, because moments later, the live stream captured something horrifying. Valeria was shot in the chest, then in the head, and the entire world of her followers changed in an instant. But the biggest mystery wasn't simply who pulled the trigger. It was this: who wanted Valeria dead badly enough to send someone after her in broad daylight?
The murder of a Mexican beauty influencer has sent shockwaves across the country.
Hoy andaba haciendo unas cosillas.
23-year-old Valeria Marquez shot to death during a TikTok live stream on Tuesday.
Ya viene.
Her followers watched her final moments live in this video.
Hola. Sí.
In the minutes before, as she recorded from the beauty salon where she worked in Zapopan, central Mexico,
Pues que te lo quieren entregar a ti.
she mentions how someone had stopped by earlier promising to bring an expensive gift.
Ya viene.
Later on, clutching a pink stuffed animal, Marquez looks out of frame before saying, "They're coming," and a voice in the background asks for her by name.
Sí.
Marquez replies yes, then leans over to mute the sound on the live stream. Horrifically shot to death in moments after, we will not show. But after, a person appears to pick up her phone, their face briefly showing on the live stream before the video ends. The identity of this person and their relationship to the crime hasn't been publicly identified. It would be the last video from Marquez, a rising online star in Mexico with nearly 200,000 followers between Instagram and TikTok.
Y el móvil
Now Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum,
con esta lamentable situación.
found justice. The prosecutor's office has not named a suspect, but said the killing is being investigated as a possible femicide, an intentional murder of a woman due to her gender.
You said you were horrified by this, but were you surprised?
I was horrified, and in one sense, I was not surprised.
Paulina Garcia del Moral is an assistant professor who studies gender violence in Mexico and Latin America.
It is quite common, even though it has been codified as a federal crime. The fact is that violence against women, including feminicide, is on the rise in Mexico.
There were 847 femicides reported last year by the government of Mexico. That accounts for nearly 1 out of every 4 homicides with female victims. Fighting femicide was a big part of Sheinbaum's recent presidential campaign in Mexico. And while the murder of Marquez is still being investigated, Garcia del Moral says femicide is a pervasive problem in Mexico that will take time to address.
There has to be change at the institutional level to recognize the institutional responsibility for creating conditions for women to be murdered with impunity. And if that can change, then yes, I believe there could be change, but that's going to be really hard.
Marissa Parra joins us tonight from Miami. So, Marissa, if you talk to human rights groups, they'll point out that in places like Mexico, femicide happens because the punishments just aren't there for the men who are killing these women in cold blood. What more do we know about that?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because we know it varies state to state, and it's not just the punishment itself, Tom. We know that the punishment can vary anywhere between 50 to 60 years in places like Oaxaca, but then in a place like Michoacan, the punishment can be 20 to 50 years in prison. But that's just the punishment itself. Even the definition of femicide, what meets the criteria for femicide, varies state to state. But on top of that, the punishment does not find every person that is the perpetrator. There's various investigations that have to be done. They are very complex. Not every state has the resources to do that, Tom. And according to Amnesty International and organizations like that, 95% of femicide cases go unpunished, which, as we heard from the expert there, a big reason why this remains such a pervasive problem in this country of Mexico, Tom.
For investigators, the answer eventually appeared to leak back to Valeria's personal life. Authorities alleged that Valeria had previously been involved in a relationship with Francisco, the son of Ramon Angel Alvarez Alaya. According to Mexican officials, the relationship had become abusive. And after Valeria ended it, investigators say the situation didn't simply disappear. There were allegedly threats, repeated threats, warnings that something worse could happen. But Valeria was still living her life, still working, still building her audience, still appearing online, until the day someone walked into her salon carrying what appeared to be a gift. That detail makes the killing even more chilling. Because if investigators are correct, the attacker didn't need to force his way inside. He allegedly used trust as the weapon. And somewhere behind that encounter was a question that investigators would spend more than a year trying to answer. Who was powerful enough to turn a personal grudge into a targeted assassination? More than a year after Valeria's death, Mexican authorities announced a major development. In late July 2026, Mexican security forces arrested Ramon Angel Alvarez Alaya, better known as LR1. Authorities identified him as the leader of Los R's, a criminal organization affiliated with the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or CJNG. The arrest reportedly took place during a Mexican Army Special Forces operation in Atotonilco, El Alto, Jalisco. And suddenly, the murder of a 23-year-old influencer was being connected to a much larger criminal network. According to Federal Security Secretary Omar Garcia Harfuch, investigators allege that Francisco turned to his father after the relationship with Valeria deteriorated. The allegation is staggering. A personal relationship allegedly became threats. The threats allegedly became a request for murder, and that request allegedly reached a cartel-linked leader. But Valeria's case wasn't the only serious accusation surrounding LR1.
Secret that Arizona serves as a major corridor for illegal drugs coming into the United States. Now a new and more deadly threat has emerged. News 4 Tucson's Lupita Murillo digging deeper into what U.S. authorities call one of Mexico's most brutal cartels.
Earlier this year, Operation Python resulted in the arrest of more than 600 cartel members in the United States. Authorities say the power and influence of one particular cartel is spreading far beyond the U.S.-Mexico border.
More drugs have come across the Arizona border into the United States than the rest of the American border combined.
John Levitt is a Tucson police captain who is the commander for the Counter-Narcotics Alliance. He tells the Digging Deeper team that over the past several decades, Mexican drug cartels have been expanding their power south of the border, often with deadly consequences. Last year, suspected cartel assassins targeted a group of American Mormons in Mexico. 9 members of the group were slaughtered. Their families recently filed a federal lawsuit in Phoenix, naming the Juarez cartel as defendants. Now, a new and even more dangerous player has entered the scene. El Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generación, or CJNG.
When they come into an area, they really come in really hard and heavy, meaning they will go in and start on a killing spree.
Polo Ruiz, Assistant Special Agent in charge of the Drug Enforcement Administration in Arizona, says the CJNG is ruthless in their quest for money and power. They now control 24 of Mexico's 32 states, with the firepower to back it up. This recent video posted on social media shows CJNG members showing off a convoy of heavily armored military vehicles.
These individuals are individuals that, quote unquote, they call them sicarios, trained assassins.
But that's just the beginning. This exclusive video taken from deep inside Mexico interior reveals a massive illicit narcotics lab hidden deep in the jungle, with raw materials imported from China through seaports controlled by the cartels. Members of the organization manufacture deadly drugs, including methamphetamine and fentanyl, all bound for the U.S. and beyond.
They will mass flood these substances into the United States. With that, the violence will bleed over.
We always expect that we could get an overflow of cartel violence from Mexico. I will say that in the last 20 years it has declined and decreased in Arizona. Cartel violence has, largely due to the cooperative effort of state, local, federal officers in working drug enforcement.
Authorities on this side of the border say staying one step ahead of the cartel is job one, and everyone has a role.
Please, if you see something, say something, advise the local authorities, and we're still continuing our battle here.
Authorities say a decade-long battle between CJNG and the Sinaloa cartel is escalating. So as long as there's a demand for illegal narcotics, the war will continue.
Authorities also accuse Alvarez Alaya of ordering the November 2025 assassination of Uruapan Mayor Carlos Manzo. Manzo had become known for openly confronting organized crime. Then, during Day of the Dead celebrations in Uruapan, he was shot and killed in a public square. 2 seemingly different victims, an influencer inside her salon, a mayor surrounded by the public. But investigators now place the same alleged criminal figure somewhere in the background. And that changes the story, because LR1 wasn't simply a man allegedly settling a personal dispute. Authorities described him as a senior criminal leader whose connections to organized crime stretch back decades.
Dozens of people gathered in Uruapan in Mexico's western state of Michoacan for the funeral of Mayor Carlos Manzo. Manzo was shot dead during Day of the Dead festivities. Mourners filled the streets chanting justice as the hearse passed. Flowers were tossed, a mariachi band played, and the mayor's hat rested on a horse's back, a final tribute to a leader described by residents as devoted to his community.
The bad guys no longer wanted to be attacked by the mayor. He was actually achieving a lot for us, the citizens, and for Uruapan. He was accomplishing many things. That's why they killed him.
Manzo's widow, Gracia Quiroz Garcia, pledged that her husband's work would continue.
Even if they silenced his voice, they won't silence this struggle. They won't, because we will carry on his legacy.
Authorities said the mayor was killed by a lone gunman during the Festival of Candles, part of the celebrations. 7 shots were fired, and the weapon was later linked to regional criminal activity. Manzo had been under police and National Guard protection since late 2024, with his security detail reinforced earlier this year. Mexican Security Minister Garcia Harfuch has said that the killing highlighted ongoing challenges for local authorities in combating criminal violence at the site of the attack. Mourners built a small altar with candles, flowers, and the mayor's photo.
His alleged operations included drug trafficking, weapons, and extortion across parts of Jalisco and Michoacan. and despite previous imprisonment on organized crime and drug trafficking charges, he was released following a judicial order in 2022. Afterward, authorities say he returned to the criminal world and eventually assumed control over significant territory, which brings us back to Valeria. Because if investigators are right, her murder wasn't simply the result of an angry ex-boyfriend. It may have been the final step in a chain that began with a relationship, continued with threats, and allegedly ended with a cartel-connected organization carrying out a deadly order. Francisco, the man authorities allege had repeatedly threatened Valeria, remains at large. His father, Ramon Angel Alvarez Alaya, now faces charges connected to the murder, but an arrest doesn't erase the mystery surrounding what happened inside that salon. Valeria went live expecting another ordinary moment with her followers. Instead, millions would eventually see the horrifying aftermath of an attack that investigators say was carefully targeted. A stranger arrived, a question was asked, and within seconds, everything changed. The most disturbing part may be that Valeria allegedly knew the danger was coming. She had reportedly been threatened before, but she couldn't know how far those threats would go. And she couldn't have known that the man allegedly behind her murder would eventually be identified as one of the most powerful figures in a violent criminal network. The live stream ended, the investigation continued, and more than a year later, one arrest has opened a much darker chapter in the story of Valeria Marquez. But with one key suspect still free, the final answers may still be waiting. Alright y'all, there y'all have it, man. That's a crazy story of Mexican beauty influencer Valeria Marquez being assassinated by the cartel via her ex-boyfriend and his father. And then also the father being responsible for the assassination of a Mexican mayor. Man, get in that comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Drillers and trappers, we outside trapping and drilling 247. Don't go nowhere. Watch that next video. Gang!